rampant capitalism until I lose the game, and then I don't like what happened on the Monopoly board. So I flip the board over on the table and walk away. I mean, if these people were like,
but they don't walk away because a few people have saved up enough money to constantly bail out, and they've leveraged power to get the people, the electorate, the poor people, to bail them out. I mean,
yeah,
you look at people like the guy Robert Moses, a good example. You know, there was a thriving 100 years ago. There was a thriving black middle class, not only in Tulsa where there was the big race issue. They gave it a name, Black Friday, I think, or something, where they went in and killed hundreds of black people. But in New York City, in a lot of cities around the country, St. Louis, and people, these realtors came in and they chopped up these neighborhoods, built in these super highways. They evicted through eminent domain a lot of black people who had slowly pulled themselves up by the bootstraps for 65 years or so from the Civil War, and then as they were doing that, then came the stock market crash. So for 90 years, capitalism has failed. It has failed because it's a badly run system. Even if there weren't hands in the cookie jar pulling things out, but there is that corruption. So you look at the stuff that works though. Social Security is by far the most other than freeing the slaves, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to America. Medicare, even without Medicare for all, has been a godsend for the old people. Now, old people used to die in poverty before Medicare. Now, because of Medicare, they can actually save money. And so people 60 or over are generally the richest class age-wise of anyone. All government programs have benefited. There isn't... They talk about the bridges to nowhere and this kind of stuff. And yeah, sure, there's pork barrel shit. But if you're talking about the things that impact actual people's lives, social programs, socialist programs have been overwhelmingly successful. It's not even an argument. Anyone looking here in 2020, going back to 1930, it would tell people, well, this is what we've got in 2020. What's his face? FDR is going to start in a few years. This is how people in 2020, they say, no one would be against it. I can't conceive of anyone being against it. The success of the Great Society programs of LBJ, of FDR's New Deal, are so overwhelming, and the capitalism has failed so badly. So why are people even arguing about it? It's because of the 1%, the rich class, that from the time of the first satraps and the first power structures of the Persian Empire and the empires that came before that, have always tried to maintain power, and they've been successful 99% of the times in retaining power. And so this is why things don't progress socially, even though we get technological progress, even though we get scientific and medical progress, and occasionally artistic progress, we don't get real social progress. Because if you look back, Persia, the Persian Empire, the Achaemenid Empire, and I know this because I recently wrote up some plays on it. I mean, they were very similar. There's not, I mean, structurally speaking, yes, technologically there's different, but structurally speaking, there's not a hell of a lot of difference between that and most Western European societies today. Yes, there is modern voting or whatnot, but other than that, on the day-to-day level, in the terms of the barter of goods and whatnot, there's not much. There hasn't been a great leap forward really in 6,000 years in terms of social structure. And that's, I think, one of the things that is missing from the human element, is that there has to be something that is the equivalent of the Industrial Revolution to have a social revolution. And when I mean revolution, it doesn't have to be bloody, but something that fundamentally changes us from this state that we're in now to something where, like I said, we need a different currency other than material pelf.